LaRavia. This inactivity is coming off the heels of LeBron opting into his player option, and our Shams Charania reported last night on how LeBron's camp is feeling right now.
The Lakers are prioritizing the future in a lot of ways that really centers around Luka Doncic, and he knows they're going to go younger at different points. They are really prioritizing 2-year contracts right now. They want to have max salary space in 2027. But for his part, at this point in his career, at his age, at 40 years old, going on 41, he wants to compete for a championship, wherever that may be, in Los Angeles, or there are conversations to be had at another point. The Lakers, their president, Rob Pelinka, they're being active. They're trying to figure out how to get a center right now in free agency, try to get some wing depth. LeBron James is very closely evaluating essentially how this goes with the Lakers and where he would want his career to be as he winds down.
So, my bad. No offense to Jake LaRavia. I didn't mean to mispronounce his name. But these are not the kind of moves, as Shams just laid out, that we thought we were going to see from the Lakers. Wendy, you even said yourself you thought they'd have a center by now, and they certainly do not. Are you surprised by the lack of moves that the Lakers have made?
Yeah, so basically, they're going to have the salary situation is interesting if this is really their strategy. So basically what happened yesterday, Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a player that they acquired last year, a key defensive player who can defend on the wing, can defend on the interior, depending on the matchup, they allowed him to leave. He was one of their players that they could have extended his contract. They couldn't come to an agreement. He signs a 4-year contract in Houston. That's why when Shams talks about prioritizing 2-year contracts, that, I want to see all the terms of that 4-year contract. A lot of times we hear about length and terms, and then we get the details, and it turns out it's not that. But what it sounds like Shams is describing there is the Lakers were looking more for stopgaps here in the short term. And certainly Jake LaRavia, there's a lot of teams high on Jake LaRavia. I talked to a team last night that was prepared to offer Jake LaRavia more years than the Lakers offered him. There was multiple teams trying to get him. But Jake LaRavia is a downgrade from Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, maybe he'll have a great year this year and we'll reevaluate that. But they downgraded at a wing position. LaRavia is a backup. Finney-Smith is a starter. And they're a team that when you have Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves and LeBron James, who's not the defensive player he used to be, when you are deploying those guys and those are your 3 highest paid players, you have to prioritize having a defensive back line. And Dorian Finney-Smith was at least part of your defensive back line. So they needed to strengthen their defense on the interior, and their defense, in theory, at least weakened a little bit in the first 12 hours of free agency. So when Rich Paul talks about wanting to see championship moves, those are not championship moves. Now, there isn't a player in free agency that they were going to sign that was also all of a sudden going to make everybody say, oh my God, they're the favorites. And so that's the thing. I'm not sure what Rich Paul is talking about is even doable for the Lakers. But what is doable is for LeBron and Luka Doncic to be engaged in this team and for the Lakers to maximize the 2025-26 season as they tried to maximize this last season when they had the 3 seed. And that's the issue that we're looking at here. Is LeBron going to be bought into maximizing this season? And also, is Luka Doncic going to extend his contract? Because as much as we talk about LeBron, as much as we talk about the center or who's going to play backup 4-man or whatever, the most important thing for the Lakers is to get Luka Doncic to do what Shea just did a few minutes ago, which was commit to a long-term contract extension. That is what the Lakers need to do. And so all their priority has got to be forget about whether LeBron is happy today. What is Luka feeling? And that is an unknown right now, and that is not a good thing. You want Luka to be known for how he's feeling about the team.
I feel like he just got there. We're already locking him into a long-term deal. Can he get used to the LA summer? I don't know. But nonetheless, what do you think about the Lakers' inactivity so far?
I thought for a second Brian was saying you just signed a new contract.
I know. The Shea thing gets confusing. Yeah.
She's our MVP, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not making nearly as much money.
And no offense to you on the mistake on Jake LaRavia's name, but the fact that you didn't know the name, how to pronounce the name of the one signing the Lakers have signed is not exactly indicative of what we expect and know of the Lakers, right? A team that is about, they're about stars, right? They're about big names. They're about going out and making splashy moves. Jake LaRavia is a nice piece. He's not a splashy move. and they do not have a center, which they have needed from the moment they traded for Luka Doncic back in February. During that week leading up to the trade deadline, they immediately traded for Mark Williams. Then they immediately rescinded the trade for Mark Williams. And ever since then, we've said, who are the Lakers going to get to play at center alongside LeBron James and Luka Doncic? And they still don't have one, and there's really not an option for them to sign one now in free agency. It's going to solve their problem. So, as we look forward, as Brian said, this team is now, from the moment they made the Luka Doncic trade, built around and focused on the future of Luka Doncic. LeBron James, frankly, is kind of an ancillary piece now in the Lakers story. That's, I think, where a lot of the drama of the past couple of days comes from, that they now need to focus on what is the best thing for Luka Doncic going forward. How do they position Luka Doncic better for his future with the Lakers? How can they convince him to sign a long-term contract extension with the Lakers? Which, by the way, there is no financial incentive for Luka Doncic to do that in August. He doesn't get more money if he signs now. He has some security, but if he had some sort of catastrophic injury next season, he would still get whatever contract he wanted next summer. So really, in my opinion, it's in Luka Doncic's interest to wait until next July and see where the Lakers are at and then make a decision on his future. And if you're the Lakers and you don't get him signed to a contract extension, all of a sudden you go into next season and we are on Luka Doncic watch for the rest of the year. That is going to be a situation that they're going to be very nervous about. And it only is going to add to the angst and the insecurities around where the Lakers sit right now. Because look, if we just look at where the Lakers are today, they're not a top 4 team in the West. They might not be a top 6 team in the West. And that is not the kind of place that Luka Doncic wants to be in. This is a guy who 2 years ago from now was playing in the NBA Finals on a Dallas Mavericks team that looked like it had a chance to be a factor in the Western Conference for years to come. Instead, he's now in this Lakers team that doesn't have a center, doesn't have a lot of perimeter athleticism, has Austin Reeves who could be a free agent next summer, needs a massive raise. Like, this is a team that's in transition, that has a lot of flaws, does not have a lot of ways to fix them, and we're sitting here on July 1st looking around and teams are passing them in the Western Conference. That is a lot of problems for the Lakers to fix, and that doesn't even begin to discuss this issue with LeBron James and not being thrilled where he's at.
Yeah, like in the last 24 hours, where like the Rockets have gotten better, the Nuggets are making moves, obviously the Thunder are locking up their stars, and yet here are the Lakers like, doo-doo.
Yeah, we're teetering on the worst case scenario of the Lakers since they got Luka. When you thought about all the possibilities of this team, when they got Luka in February, you have months later where you lose in 5 in the first round, and then you have an offseason of inactivity and weirdness. Why is Brook Lopez going to the Clippers to be a backup instead of going to the Lakers? Why is Clint Capella going to be part of a mash of centers in Houston instead of going to the Lakers? What is the plan here, and what are you actually doing? And now you're having a situation where LeBron is facing his own mortality and own realization that this team is not really about me, it's about Luka, which is something that LeBron James plans out his career. He has a long-term plans and is very meticulous about how he goes about things. 4 months ago, 6 months ago, all of that changed when Luka Doncic wound up in LA, and now he no longer has a franchise that he can tell what to do. That is jarring for this dude. And now he's trying to figure out what to do with these last years, and they have this Luka stuff in the mix of it, trying to figure this out. This Lakers team, this last 36 hours has been extremely alarming and extremely weird for them. And in the short term, they have no centers and 3-and-D guys. And in the long term, I have no clue what they're going to do with Luka Doncic.
Okay, this is not good for a team that fell short of expectations, let's just say, this year. And then now heading into next year has us all kind of scratching our head in terms of what they're doing with their off season. We got much more to discuss here on.
Tiến hành tiếp hành với như sau. Trong cái ứng phần game đây.